Welcome back to WION World is One. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching World DNA with me, Heen Kaur Saroya, and here's what we've lined up for you on the show today. Israeli government approves hostage ceasefire agreement with Hamas following a lengthy meeting of 6 hours. First group of 33 hostages to be released as the 6-week ceasefire takes effect on Sunday. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas says the PA is ready to assume full responsibility in post-war Gaza, makes the first statement since mediators announced the Gaza deal. Celebrations erupt across Gaza. Displaced families embrace moments of joy and hope after enduring over 15 months of war. US President-elect Donald Trump announces his second inauguration ceremony will be moved indoors at the US Capitol Rotunda amid a dangerously cold weather forecast. He will be the first president to be sworn in inside since Reagan's inauguration in 1985. A meeting of the foreign ministers of the Quad grouping is likely to take place in Washington, D.C. a day after Trump's inauguration. This could mark the first meeting of the Quad foreign ministers under Trump 2.0. Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping speak on phone days before the incoming US president returns to the White House. Both leaders vow to improve ties between the rival countries. Outgoing US President Joe Biden says Trump will make a decision on TikTok after Supreme Court upholds a law banning the social media app. This even as the Justice Department says implementation will take time. Mumbai Crime Branch alleges Bandra police did not act swiftly to alert other units after Indian actor Saif Ali Khan was stabbed, says this allowed the suspect to escape. The Indian Cricket Board is all set to name the 15-member squad for the next month's ICC Champions Trophy later today. Rohit Sharma will lead the side amid speculations over his international future. Now, the Israeli cabinet voted to approve a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal, ending days of uncertainty about whether the truce would go into effect this weekend. The office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the government has endorsed the hostage return plan and the deal to halt the fighting between Hamas will come into effect on Sunday. Now, the full Israeli cabinet voted in favor of the agreement with Hamas after the Security Cabinet gave its nod to the deal on Friday. According to reports, 24 ministers voted in favor, while 8 of them opposed the agreement.
We came here to vote forward to the deal to bring back our hostages. It's a very hard decision, but we decided to support it because it's very important to us to see all of our children, men and women back home. We hope that in the future we will be able to finish the job in Gaza.
Likud ministers David Amsellem and Amichai Chikli were among the 8 cabinet members to vote against the deal, while Communications Minister Shlomo Karhi, also from Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party, was not present. The Otzma Yehudit ministers who opposed the deal are Itamar Ben-Gvir, party's leader Yitzhak Wasserlauf and Amichai Eliyahu. Head of the religious Zionism party, Bezalel Smotrich was joined by his party's minister Orit Strock and Ophir Sofer in voting against the deal. Otzma Yehudit has threatened to quit the coalition over the deal, while religious Zionism will apparently remain in the government after Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly reached an understanding with Smotrich to keep his elect faction in the fold. Under the deal, 33 Israeli hostages still held by Hamas since October 7, 2023 attack on Israel will be released during the first phase lasting 6 weeks. In exchange, the Justice Ministry has published a list of 95 Palestinians to be freed starting Sunday. They include 69 women, 16 men and 10 minors. According to the agreement, Israeli forces will withdraw from the densely populated areas of Gaza. Displaced Palestinians will be allowed to begin returning to their homes, and hundreds of aid vehicles will be allowed into the territory. Negotiations for the second phase, which will see the remaining hostages released and a full Israeli troop withdrawal, will start on the 16th day, while the third and final stage will involve the reconstruction of Gaza and the return of any remaining hostages' bodies. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has said that the Palestinian Authority has completed preparations to assume full responsibility in Gaza after the war. Even before the truce begins, displaced Gazans were preparing to return home. Thousands across Gaza celebrated the ceasefire agreement. Palestinian refugees and Syrian nationals gathered in Damascus to celebrate the Hamas-Israel ceasefire deal. Meanwhile, Gaza's civil defense agency said Israel pounded several areas of the territory, killing more than 100 people and wounding hundreds more since the deal was announced on Wednesday. In Yemen, thousands of protesters, mainly Houthi supporters, rallied in the Sabine Square in the Houthi-held capital Sana'a in support of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. During the rally, Houthi military spokesperson announced that several military operations were carried out by the group against Israel using missiles and drones. He also said that Yemeni naval forces targeted American aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman in the Red Sea with the drones. And for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Charles Kupchan from Washington, D.C. He's a senior fellow at the Council of Foreign Relations. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA, sir.
Good to be with you.
Now, sir, of course, we saw that the negotiations and the finalization of this deal, it hit a snag in the final stage before it was to be implemented. That's on Sunday, tomorrow. Now, that being said, how do you assess the strength or rather the fragility of this deal?
Well, the deal has been sealed. We did have 8 members of the cabinet vote no. It's likely that one of those parties that's part of the coalition, Mr. Ben-Gvir, will leave the Netanyahu government. That will not bring it down. It will reduce the majority from 68 seats to 62 seats. But Netanyahu does enjoy the backing of the opposition as well. So politically speaking, Israel is going to get behind the ceasefire deal, and I expect it to be implemented on time on Sunday. What is, I think, uncertain is what happens after day 16 when negotiations begin on the second phase, because this is a ceasefire that brings hostages home in return for Palestinian prisoners being released, but it is silent on the tough issues. What to do about the border between Gaza and Egypt, the buffer zone between Gaza and Israel, the zone that bisects Gaza into 2 halves controlled by Israel. These are issues that have been left to future discussions. Those discussions are not going to be easy because they have to do with Hamas's desire to stay in control and stay intact, and Israel's control to retain control of Gaza.
Right, so now we've heard since the beginning of this war, Israel's goal was always to annihilate Hamas completely. That being said, we know that President-elect Donald Trump is all set to return to the White House on Monday. Would you say then that this deal was sort of rushed for it to go through before perhaps Donald Trump takes office? Do you think that's one, because Biden administration needed a win, or because perhaps Israel wouldn't enjoy the same support under Donald Trump's administration?
Well, I think several different factors are at play. One is that Israel has succeeded in very seriously degrading Hamas, Hezbollah, and weakening Iran. And on some level, that allows Netanyahu to claim mission accomplished. I've done more or less what I said. I've taken down the axis of resistance. Number two, Biden has been trying to get this deal sealed since May. This is in some ways a way to allow Biden to leave office with a win. And number three, I think Netanyahu wants to get off to a good start with Trump. He wants to have a good working relationship with Trump. And Trump said very clearly, I want this war finished by the time I take office. He takes office on Monday. The ceasefire takes effect one day before.
Right. Very important point, sir. Now, just coming back to a point that you'd made earlier, to take that further, you said it really just depends on what happens after day 16. Of course, these first initial few days are crucial. That being said, the Palestinian Authority has said that it is ready to assume control of Gaza. Do you think that's likely to happen?
I think over time, yes. I don't believe that Israel will allow an outcome that leaves Hamas in a position of political power. They can't get rid of every single Hamas operative and fighter. Many of them are still in tunnels. They can't find each and every one of them. But I do think that Israel will insist on some kind of governing structure in Gaza that does not include Hamas. And that does mean some presence of the Palestinian Authority working with local elites, tribal leaders inside Gaza. And I think the one other condition will be that Israel wants to make sure that weapons are no longer smuggled from Egypt into Gaza, because that would allow Hamas to rearm. How actually that border will be patrolled remains to be seen.
All right. Now, Dr. Captain, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA with your insights on this. Always a pleasure to have you on the show with us.
Bye-bye.
All right. And a Ukrainian drone attack sparked a fire at an industrial site in Russia around 170 kilometers from the border. The governor of Russia's Kaluga region claimed on social media platform Telegram that a fire broke out on the territory of an industrial enterprise due to the Ukrainian drone strike. The Russian authorities further claim that Kyiv has upped its aerial attacks in Russian energy and military facilities in recent months. This follows as Kyiv on Friday said that Russian drones struck a school in the Kursk region, now under Ukrainian control. In the attack, 2 drones hit the school in Sudza town, sheltering displaced civilians. 2 people suffered concussions while children nearby were unharmed. Sudza, once a Russian stronghold, now plays a key role in Kyiv's operations. It also is home to crucial gas facilities used for exports before the war. Kyiv claims to be providing humanitarian aid to thousands of civilians remaining in the region. Meanwhile, Moscow is seeking to retake lost territory. As Donald Trump is about to take office, Russians in Moscow shared their thoughts on whether his inauguration will alter the conflict in any way.
Да вы понимаете, я так далек от политики, что даже не могу сказать. Ну, такой, что Трамп, если Владимир Владимирович ничего не поменяет, то так все и останется. А Трамп при чем для нашей страны Трамп?
Я думаю, что нет смысла вообще об этом думать, потому что как он пришел зарабатывать деньги дальше, так он и зарабатывает. Так что мог крикнуть, что он все это дело исправит, на самом деле нет. Каждый гребет свои карманы.
And Donald Trump has announced that his second inauguration as U.S. president will move indoors due to expected freezing weather. This means Trump will not stand on the U.S. Capitol steps overlooking the National Mall, which traditionally hosts a large crowd to welcome new presidents. He will be the first president to be sworn in inside U.S. Capitol since Ronald Reagan's inauguration in 1985. The change of plan has come as a disappointment to Trump supporters who traveled to Washington to attend the inauguration. But the Republican president will instead give his inauguration address at the Capitol Rotunda. The Rotunda is an ornate round hall around the dome of the Congress and can typically only hold about a few hundred people. Trump wrote on his Truth social feed that there is an Arctic blast sweeping the country and therefore the inauguration address as well as prayers and other speeches will be delivered in the Capitol Rotunda. Now, Washington is forecast to be well below freezing point on the 20th of January, with a temperature of -7 degrees Celsius at the time of Trump's swearing in. But it is expected to feel even colder, with gusty winds adding to the cold. Preparations had already been made in Washington for a huge influx of visitors. Thousands of chairs were lined up at the mall, but most will have to watch on television. The switch means Trump will miss out on the traditional address to a sea of people. But his supporters are undeterred. With the inauguration date nearing, nations across the world are bracing for the Trump administration. While Canada readies itself to respond to Trump's tariffs, Germany is keeping a close eye on Greenland as it urges the European Union to adopt a united stance towards the United States.
With the incoming American administration floating the possibility of tariffs on Canada, our highly integrated North American auto industry is under threat. It's not just these tariffs will hurt the Canadian industry, these tariffs will hurt the North American industry and endanger jobs in the United States as well.
As for that thing with Greenland, it's no joke. And that's why I did what you have to do when you're the head of the government of Europe's largest country. Namely, I did not remain silent. We'll see what happens there, and we all heard it, and that is why there is one thing that is very important to me, that we stay together as the European Union. That people don't think, oh, he won't see me, or he won't come for me. We must act together, and I believe that it is possible. You never know.
The Biden administration is set to hand over the reins. Outgoing U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has delivered his farewell remarks to the staff at the State Department. Blinken said he hopes the incoming Trump administration will press forward with several key points in President Joe Biden's foreign policy, including on West Asia and Ukraine. Blinken received a clap out but faced two significant interruptions at his final briefing, both accusing him of complicity in Israeli violence against Palestinians in Gaza. The outgoing Secretary of State addressed the implementation of the Gaza ceasefire and also regretted his inability to end the brutal war in Sudan. Shifting focus to football now, Erling Haaland has signed a new mega 9.5-year deal with reigning champions Manchester City. The new improved deal will keep the Norwegian at the club until 2034. The 20-year remain with City until his 34th birthday, League, Premier League and FA Cup. He scored 38 goals last season as City won a fourth consecutive at 111 goals in 126 games for the club.
I'm super happy, I'm proud, and it's difficult to put words on because it is a big moment and everything, and who I am is I am happy, and that's the right words to use. So I'm super proud and happy, and I look forward to staying here for a long time.
Now the deal is the longest in the Premier League, eclipsing the 9-year contract. Cole Palmer signed with Chelsea. Haaland's salary will reportedly be about $610,000 per week. The striker's renewal comes as City await the outcome of the disciplinary case against the Premier League. The club, which could face a huge sanction if found guilty, have denied 115 charges leveled against them. On to news now from the world of entertainment. Acclaimed horror writer Stephen King has announced that he will not be voting for this year's Oscars. The 77-year-old cinema veteran has cited the ongoing wildfires in LA and the reason posting on his Blue Sky account. King wrote, and I'm quoting here, "Not voting in Oscars this year, no glitz with LA fire." The Academy Awards nominations are set to be announced virtually on the 23rd of February. In light of the crisis, the Academy has cancelled its annual nominees' lunch and plans to honour frontline workers while supporting relief efforts. And if you fail to get tickets to Coldplay's concert in India, well, fret not. The celebrated band has joined forces with an OTT service to bring their iconic Music of the Spheres World Tour concert live to audiences across India. Scheduled for the 26th of January, the Ahmedabad concert will stream live on Disney Plus Hotstar. Chris Martin, the lead singer of the band, shared a video to make the announcement. Award-winning British actor Joan Plowright has passed away at the age of 95. Plowright, who was one half theatrical power couple after marrying Laurence Olivier, breathed her last at Denville Hall, a retirement home for actors in southern England. In a moving statement, the family said, and I'm quoting here, "We're so proud of all Joan did and who she was as a loving and deeply inclusive human being." From the 1950s to the 1980s, she raked up dozens of stage roles, including The Merchant of Venice, The Seagull, and Chairs, among others. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World DNA. But before we go, we're leaving you with all the climate stories which are making headlines across the globe today. Stay tuned to WION World is One.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life.